The joint American-Israeli plan of attack had been drawn up between Donald Trump and Prime Minister Netanyahu somewhere last year, closing months of the year. Right? It had been drawn up in fair detail. All details had been worked out, target list worked out, shared, etc., etc. And then we all know that when the colored revolution floundered, then Israel had requested that this attack, which was scheduled for January, be delayed further, and more force levels be brought into the Middle East region, so that Israel could be protected from Iran's missile retaliation. So, as you are all aware, as we all know, about 10-15 days, Donald Trump pretended to engage in negotiations with Iran, and Witkoff and Kushner, they engaged in many rounds of talk, but the whole time was being used to push forward the Gerald Ford carrier battle group from Venezuela, where it had been hanging around for 6 months, to off the coast of Haifa in the Mediterranean. It was moved, and the total force level in the Middle East against Iran was built up to 2 carrier battle groups, the Abraham Lincoln, the Gerald Ford, and 12 guided missile destroyers, along with a number of littoral combat ships, LCSs. So it was quite a formidable armada. It was there in position on the 27th, and that was the day the attack was supposed to go into position. But and they were planning to hit, they had intelligence about a major conference to be held by Ayatollah Khamenei and the president in the Pasteur complex in Tehran. The Pasteur complex, where the Ayatollah Khomeini along with the president of Iran, Pezeshkian, are staying. They have their headquarters, they have their palatial buildings, right? Then this was postponed to the next day. Like I said, that the next day they confirmed, and the confirmation, though all the Iranian top leadership had been told not to carry cell phones through which they could be monitored. It's even being said that in 2025 June, some Israeli dentists had gone into Iran and planted, when they were doing tooth replacement, they had planted a chip in those teeth which would keep sending out signals so that they could be tracked, their movements could be traced. I mean, they had gone to those lengths. They've gone to those meticulous details, as the Israelis always do, the Mossad especially. But in the instant case, they had been told not to carry their mobile phones. The problem was their security guard, security detail, drivers were all carrying mobile phones. And from then they were picked up. Then I've said they had hacked into the traffic video cameras. The video cameras that monitor the traffic on the streets of Tehran. All they had been hacked into, and they could sort of monitor the feed. So when any convoys of the army chief, IRGC chief, etc., then they go around with escorts, vehicles, aage, piche, ambulances, etc., they were all picked up and monitored. So the plan of attack was shifted to 28th morning instead of the evening of 27th, when they had planned to hit them earlier, right? So the entire talk charade was a smoke screen designed to fool Iran. The amazing fact is that the Iranians were taken in for a second time by the talks ruse. Of course, they had to engage in the talks. They had to sort of take part in those talks, because they thought that if they had not, they would have been accused of being intransigent, and that would have been the very excuse to attack them, to create a justification for an attack on Iran, right? Donald Trump wanted regime change. Prime Minister Netanyahu was very keen. He wanted destruction of Iran. He felt Iran was at its weakest. It had never been weaker than this. And if the Americans and the Israelis pooled their forces, they could deliver a knockout blow to Iran. Don't forget, somewhere in the 1998, an article had come out in a very prominent American journal which had talked about how America, Israel, between them, they planned to dismember Iran, dismember Pakistan, dismember Turkey. Long-term plan, dismemberment plan had been worked out, maps had been published in that. So whatever it is, Israel was quite set because Israel feels that Iran poses a existential threat with its nuclear missiles and now with its conventional tipped missiles also. They've been able to do prohibitive damage last year in June. One estimate in the media was $50 billion worth of damage was inflicted on Israel by the Iranian missiles. Infrastructure, this, that and the rest. This time the damage was likely to be much more, and therefore all these precautions had been taken. The Gerald Ford Carrier Battle Group had been moved in to protect Israel, to provide a missile shield to Israel with its destroyers. I am also quite astonished. Even if they had to hold a meeting of the higher command, they were bound to hold a meeting once the talks got over, and it was supposed to be negative, but a lot of hope was given by Gerald Kushner and the other Witkoff that they are going in a very positive direction, etc., etc. Right? So they were taken for a ride the second time. And even if you are taken for a ride, look, and you want to hold a combined conference of all top commanders, for God's sake, did you have to hold it over ground? There is no dearth of underground command posts in Israel, but yet they decided to hold it over ground in a open this thing. And I'm very sorry, but the security of information seems to have been rather poor. So they monitored their convoys coming in, they monitored the mobile phones of the guard security detail, and they got to know that this conference is taking place in the compound of Ayatollah Khomeini, right, where he was staying. They hit in the morning, 8 o'clock. The first strike was the Decapitation strike. It was done by the B-2 bombers launching 2,000-pound bombs. None of these bombers or Israeli aircraft came inside Iran's airspace. From Iraq and Kuwait, from standoff ranges, they were able to fire their cruise missiles and bombs and devastate that area. 48 top commanders of Iran were taken out in this one blow. One fatal blow. 48. Starting with Khomeini, starting with the chief of the Iran army, chief of staff, IRGC commander, his missile launching commander, his drone commander, his 4 intelligence deputies. They were all taken out in the one first fell blow. And Donald Trump, when he got this news, we killed 48, he was on cloud 9. He felt this was Venezuela redux. Like Venezuela had folded up tamely and surrendered before Donald Trump, Iran was going to be at his feet begging for mercy. Well, he was in for a shock. He was in for a surprise. Very nasty surprise. Within 1 hour of this tragic hit, fatal hit, the Iranian Revolutionary Guard Corps were firing their missiles on American bases all over the Middle East. 6 countries, Gulf countries, they hit with these missiles, right? And they hit Israel thereafter. A fair amount of damage was inflicted by them all over, right? The 5th Fleet headquarters at Bahrain, dense oil smoke continued to pour out of there for about 2 to 3 days. The damage was pretty substantial. So far, the American Central Command has admitted to 6 killed and 18 wounded in Kuwait, right? Above all the other areas where, video recordings of those strikes are available, there is no news of any damage or casualty. Iran claims to have inflicted about 550 plus casualties on the Americans. The Americans say 6 killed, 18 wounded, and 3 F-15 jets shot down amazingly by friendly fire. I mean, that's quite unprecedented. We have heard of 1 or 2 maximum going down by friendly fire by mistake, and not in the same area. But 3 all shot down by the Kuwaiti air defenses. Was it deliberate or what? Was there a lot of Shia population in Kuwait, in Iraq, in Saudi Arabia, and especially around the oil fields, Bahrain, etc. There are lots of Shiite population which were pretty angry. Donald Trump thought that the whole regime would now collapse and he would take the big bow and applause as the man who had done to Iran exactly what he had done in January to Maduro, to Venezuela. Maduro gone, wife gone, Venezuela folded up. Here Khomeini was killed, his son, his daughter, daughter-in-law, all, not his son, but all killed, his wife killed. But Iran fought back and is still fighting back. Day 5, its strikes are becoming more lethal by the hour. They are supposed to have hit in Qatar a missile detection radar, $1.5 billion worth, which has been taken out by a Shahid drone. Their drones are loitering all over. They have expanded the target set from just 6 countries to 9 countries, and now there is some report that they have hit as far as Turkey, Cyprus. Iran's counter strategy is simple and straightforward. They are fighting not for just the survival of their regime, they are fighting for the survival of Iran as a nation state. So they have said there are no red lines. They are hitting anywhere and everywhere. They are trying to widen the battle space to include almost all the Gulf countries, Saudi Arabia, Jordan, Kuwait, Iraq, etc. They have tried to hit even Cyprus, right? Forcing the British to come in, who had said we don't want to come in, right? They have hit a French base. So Iran is in a mode, one, to raise costs for United States in terms of casualties and battle damage, 1. Number 2, expand the battle space to make it a regional war. It is already a regional war. Number 3, wage economic warfare by closing the Gulf of Hormuz, by causing the price of oil to touch $100 a barrel, cause inflation in the global economy, possibly recession, hit not just the economies of the Asian countries like India. 50% of our oil comes from the Gulf of Hormuz, 60% of our gas comes from Gulf of Hormuz. Qatar, from where we get the bulk of our natural gas, has been hit, taken out. They have stopped producing our natural gas. Aramco refinery in Saudi Arabia, the Ras refinery, hit badly, has closed down, shut down. They are gone ballistic. They have gone ballistic. So now comes the very critical question, what next? How will all this end? Who is likely to win? Very pertinent questions. Let me answer them one by one. How long will this last? It is a pure function of the mathematical function of the missile stocks of the Iranians and the interceptor missile stocks of the Americans and the Israelis. Don't forget that these stocks are limited on both sides. They are not infinite by any scope, not even the American ones, right? And Donald Trump has admitted to that. He said low grade, medium grade, we are very happy, we are very okay, but high grade, we have a problem. Of course you have a problem. America's production rate of Patriot missiles is 600 to 800 per year. Rate of THAAD production is 200 per year. When China has stopped supplies of rare earth, that affects the production of these missiles, their guidance systems. Right? And the entire game is on their guidance systems, effectiveness of their guidance system. So, these stocks they have been using in Ukraine like there is no tomorrow. They have been using in Israel like there is no tomorrow. And quite obviously, when you are under attack, when you are under pressure, you tend to fire off. For every single Iranian missile that is fired, every drone that is fired, unless you are able to pick out that it is not the signature of a missile, for every missile you will have to fire 2 Patriots or 2 THAADs. 2 Patriots or 2 THAADs. So, already about 400 to 500 Iranian missiles have been fired. So, that means about 1,000, you are down by 1,000 Patriots and THAADs. How long will this last? How long did it last in June last year? 12 days. And that is when the Iranians were not going hell for leather for all the American military bases. They had hit only one towards the fag end. And that was also a fixed match. Noora Kushti. Iran had hit Israel so hard that Israel was looking for an off-ramp. They were looking for an off-ramp, and that is why this fixed match was done. We'll hit your Natanz facility, and you hit Al Udaid, and we will empty it before, and you take out your uranium. And then we were told in triumphalist terms that the entire nuclear enriched uranium of Iran had been destroyed, kaput, annihilated, finito. I mean, we heard a lot of adjectives, and now that is being attacked again. That's being attacked again. And this time they have put it Pika mountain, they have put it well below bunker bursting range. So I am not sure what damage will really get done at that depth. At that depth, there is no leakage of radioactive material. That is what the IAEA has confirmed. So, at best, the stocks, to my calculations, would last 10-12 days. On the side of the Americans, the interceptor missiles. Larejani, the Secretary of the National Security Council of Iran, has said, America is prepared to fight for weeks, we are prepared to fight for months. We can keep firing 200 missiles a day till about many months down the line. And we have missile production factories underground, they'll keep churning out more. They'll keep churning out more. We've heard that the Americans, the Israelis are hitting the tunnels, the underground cities, etc. But how effective they will be is a question mark. The simple proof of the pudding lies in the eating. The simple acid test empirical factor is, have the missile attacks from Iran stopped? No. They are continuing, they are increasing in ferocity. And if Iran knows qualitatively it is no match for the American-Israeli combined. The Americans have the scale, the huge power, the massive numbers and quality. The Israelis have the innovation. It's a lethal combination. But Iran is hitting back with its missiles, and very effectively, number one, hitting back with its Shahid drones, which are so good that the Americans have copied, reverse engineered these designs and produced their version of it, the Levant or something like that, right? And they are trying to use it against the Iranians. No Israeli or American aircraft have gone over Israeli airspace as yet. They are all standoff distance, and they are using standoff cruise missiles, oblique glide toss bombs, etc., etc. Only the drones are flying above Iranian airspace. and a number of MQ-9 Reapers, etc. have been shot down, 2 to 3 minimum. 3 American F-15s have been shot down, which is amazing. The aircraft carrier Abraham Lincoln was attacked twice, and that is a very critical factor in this war. Can Iran land a sucker punch? What would that sucker punch be? Hit an American aircraft carrier, either the Abraham Lincoln, which was first in the Gulf of Hormuz, restricted waters. They got worried, they had to take it out. They took it to the Gulf of Oman, and yesterday when it was attacked for the second time with 4 Iranian missiles, 4 and 4, 8 missiles have been fired on it already. They had taken it out into the Arabian Sea. That quite obviously complicates the number of ground attacks that you can launch, and because you will have to refuel inwards, you will have to refuel out on the outward bound. Inward and outward bound, both you will have to do air-to-air refueling. Not a problem, can be done, but there is a limitation on how many tankers you can fly and for how long, right? So, the simple fact is, if Iran launches a sucker punch, there were media reports that China has given its what you call it, the anti-ship cruise missiles, Dongfeng 21CDE. They were all talking of these missiles, their so-called carrier killer missiles. Nothing of that sort has happened. China has talked very big, but I am afraid it's done very little, except for very loud condemnation. That's about all. That hardly makes a difference. It had given a lot of air defense resources. The HQ-9, HQ-16, even India had been able to get the better of them in Pakistan. They are supposed to have given a 3D radar, etc. Nothing has worked. Not one of these attacks was stopped. And Iran is at the receiving end as far as air defense is concerned. Its only saving grace for Iran are its missiles and its Shahid drones and other drones. Also its cruise missile. Can Iran still land a sucker punch? Can it knock out the Abraham Lincoln? Could it knock out the Gerald Ford? If it can't hit them, could it hit any one of the Arleigh-Burke class destroyers? There are 5,000 American sailors on each of the aircraft carriers. There are 250 to 300 sailors on each of the 12 Arleigh-Burke class destroyers out in that region. Right? Even if one goes down, Donald Trump can kiss his midterm election goodbye. He can kiss his midterm election goodbye. He will then become a lame duck president, and don't be too surprised if he could even get impeached. Right? The rest, Iran's strategy is very clear. They are going to inflict so much economic pain on the Gulf states, on the global economy, that the rest of the world will pressurize America and Iran to call it off. We've had enough. Already, UAE, etc., they are desperately telling Israel to stop. Please stop. We've had it. These were tourist havens. These were havens for corporate sector, headquarter offices, honchos to stay in such a tourist paradise. It's all gone for a knock. They are hitting natural gas producing facilities. They are hitting the refining capacities of Saudi Arabia. They are causing economic pain to the whole world. Let me underline, if the price of oil goes up to $100 a barrel, the index of inflation will go up from 2.6% in the United States to about 4.5%. If the price of oil goes to $130 a barrel, The calculations done by the American corporates are that the price, that the index of inflation, the percentage of inflation will go to 6%. 6%. And the price of a gallon of oil in the United States will go up from $3 to $7 to $8 a gallon. You think the American people are going to be thrilled? I'm afraid not. They're going to be quite upset. They do not like body bags. 6 have already come in, 18 wounded, a lot is being hidden. A lot is being hidden. But you can't hide it forever, because ultimately these people have to be buried, and they have to be buried with full military honors. So you can't hide these losses for very long. American embassies have been hit, which were not really expecting to be hit. All their staff has been told to get the vamoose from that place, get the hell out. Right? They have stopped their embassies functioning in Kuwait and Iraq and the other places. Saudi Arabia, they've been hit. So you are telling me there have been no casualties, these are casualty-less strikes? Difficult to accept in a professional analysis. Difficult to accept in a professional. Yes, about 800 plus Iranians have been killed, 1000 plus wounded, but they are hitting back. They haven't called it kaput. Look, ultimately, it is the psychological dimension of war that is preeminent still. Whatever electronic age, artificial intelligence age you may have gotten, if you have the will to fight, and that is a function of morale, and the human resilience of the human biocomputer is amazing. Iran fought Iraq for 8 years when they used chemical warfare weapons against them, one shot of the nuclear. They have withstood that. They didn't pack up, they didn't fold up, sir. They didn't fold up then. So I don't think they are going to be buckling up in such a hurry. They are saying we are prepared to fight it out for months. We are prepared to fight it out for months, and that the Donald Trump's hope of a quick in, quick out, one day wonder, one day war, no boots on the ground, no protracted campaigns, no Iraq, that's precisely what it is heading to. That's precisely what it is heading to. Every day the justifications that the American administration has been giving are changes. It was supposed to be regime change to start with, then it quickly did a flip-flop, came to nuclear, taking out nuclear capacities, then it switched to taking out their missile capacities, then it switched to saving the people of Iran. I mean, I don't know. You call it saving the people of Iran. About 300 odd girls' schools, two girls' schools have been hit and the girls have been killed. You pretend to shed crocodile tears for the people of Iran. You think they don't know that they have been suffering for the past 48 years because of American economic crippling sanctions? If you were really so concerned about the people of Iran, you would have taken away the sanctions. So spare us the highfalutin talk about how your hearts are bleeding for the people of Iran. They are not. You are making them bleed. You are killing their girls. You killed their Pope, their Ayatollah, and they are hopping mad. Killing Khomeini has proved to be exceptionally counterproductive. Nothing, it has united the Iranian people like nothing before. And not only the Iranian people, the rest of the world, the Shias are up in arms, including in India, sir, where we thought it would be the last place. In Pakistan, they've had to open fire. The American guards Marine Corps guards had to fire headshots, because Pakistan, as usual, was being damn clever. We let our people attack them so that a message goes, so that the people are happy. The street opinion remains with Asim Munir, Mullah Munir and Shahbaz Sharif. You've just been caught out, boy, for being over smart, over clever. So how will all this end? Who will win? To my mind, I'm sticking my neck out and saying likely to be a draw, heavily in favor of United States and Israel. But if the war will stop, it will stop due to exhaustion. It will stop due to missile mathematics. Missile mathematics. And if Iran is able to land a sucker punch, then there are problems for Donald Trump. Jai Bharat, Jai Hind.